We're finally back, and today we're going to be taking a look at a decades-old furnace, specifically the GTX 480. So how well does it run? How well does it do? How can it even play anything? Well, cool little fact, it does support DirectX 12, giving it a nice little edge. Fortunately, it doesn't mean every game's going to be compatible, as I found with the most recent Call of Duty, the new Modern Warfare title, which wouldn't run no matter what. Couldn't find a workaround for that, but we do have 7 recent games right here that are quite popular that I think we're going to take a look at. So, if you guys want to go ahead and skip ahead to any, there will be timestamps down below. Otherwise, let's move on to the spec breakdown of the rig. Alright, what are we talking about for hardware here? Well, for our CPU, we're going to be using my personal CPU, that is the R7-2700X. Moving on to the GPU, of course, going to be the GTX 480. What kind of motherboard are we talking about? Got a Gigabyte gaming K7 in this case. Our RAM. We have 16 gigs at a cool 3000 megahertz. Alright, let's go ahead and kick it off with Valorant. It's going to be our first game today. It's a brand new game. Just came out in 2020. Still in beta, unfortunately, so not the full game. And not the most graphically intense one, but a new game nonetheless. How well did it perform? Well, just even while recording, look at that. I mean, those frames right there was while not recording. That was while I was benchmarking. You got the averages of a few games that I played, and I'll tell you this much. I don't even gotta look at that number. The overall experience was smooth. I mean, again, not that crazy graphics-wise, but something that's gonna become very popular. It is popular so far, and I'm sure will continue to be. And it performs well. So yeah, if you're talking about a card that came out, about 10 years ago or so, can it handle something that's played by a crazy amount of people that's brand new? Well, yes it can in Valorant's case. Moving on to something that kind of surprised me a bit. Apex Legends. Now, it is a very nice looking game, especially when it's maxed out. However, even on the low settings, to my surprise, 480 didn't handle it that well. Was it a playable experience? Absolutely. Was it a smooth experience? Not so much. Recording, unfortunately, does not do justice to how playable it was, which I'll include some raw footage from my camera later to give you a better idea of how it actually performed. And no doubtly the biggest performance differences that we saw was between the indoor and outdoor environments. Overall, there was a massive difference, which is to be expected. However, it did make the, well, how could I say this exactly? The playability a bit rough to say the least. Going from a rather smooth frame rate indoors to all of a sudden something choppy, it's not that great. I mean, if I'm going to have choppy frames, I like some consistency in my frames. Even if they're bad, at least I like them to be battle out around the same level. At least that's my personal preference. I don't like too much jumpiness, and to be honest, that's the unfortunate part of this card. Still very good in many aspects, but of course there are going to be a lot of limitations that are going to be kicking in. Some games are going to work, and some aren't, unfortunately. The card does support DirectX 12, however with something, for example, as I mentioned earlier, the newest Call of Duty game, it simply won't start up. Of course, the biggest problem with that happens to be the fact that the driver is so outdated. I mean, we're talking about a driver that last time was updated in 2018. I'm not sure if there's any other workarounds to get around that to actually play Call of Duty on it. Something like Battlefield 5 does have a workaround, however I was not able to find one for Modern Warfare. And here's a brand new little segment I'm going to be adding to the videos in the future, and in this current video right now. This is the raw footage aspect. So basically, I got a Canon G7X Mark II. It's usually what I've used for most of my videos, especially the latest ones. And I'm going to be using it to give you guys some actual footage of how the game runs. This alleviates the issue that I get with recording using OBS. I am using X264, so it's more on the CPU than the GPU really, but there is unfortunately still a bit of a performance hit, and this gives you more of a realistic, I guess you could say, view on how I'm actually playing the game and how it should run on a 480, one that's not bottlenecked thanks to a decent CPU. At least I would hope not. I mean, we're at 97 GPU usage, not 99, but I think we're good anyways. Anyways guys, I'm happy to be back, honestly. I want to talk about that for a little bit. I will be trying to stick to an upload schedule now. Gonna be trying to come out with a few more videos. If you guys are enjoying it, let me know. If there's anything you guys want to see change or anything else, please feel free to go ahead and leave a suggestion down below. There were a few other ideas I had for videos previously that I might have mentioned in the past. I am scrapping those as of right now. I might return to a few of those, but I think starting fresh is probably the best way to go about things right now. It just lets me clear my head, lets me clear all the different stuff that I had going on previously, and to be honest, I wasn't a fan of some of the edits I did previously or the videos, so starting fresh is kind of something I want to focus on now. So, anyways, we're going to be focusing on accuracy and quality. I'm going to try and get more, data in essentially, more matches, more averages, so I'm going to try and provide the best I possibly can, and hopefully improve over time. And moving on to our third game today, we have Fortnite, a game that if I didn't include would have surely been requested. As every single video where I haven't included Fortnite has usually had a few comments requesting it, or asking questions about the card in Fortnite. So here we are. How to perform, how to do, well, your very eyes can tell you right here. It's performing pretty well. Performance is very good. It's not exactly the hardest game to run in the world. They've got it running on phones. They've got it running on consoles. Yes, those consoles are better than they used to be, but nonetheless, it runs on a lot of stuff. And on this PC, on a 480, I mean, come on, look at that. It's a pretty smooth experience. Easiest way I can put it, not a perfect experience nonetheless, but something that most people, if they honestly started up the game, went ahead and played it, could have lowered the resolution very easily and had a variable playable experience. You don't have to tweak the settings much, just set everything low, drop it down to 720p, and you have a very playable experience. And I know a lot of people have a lot of these older cards. I mean, I've been gone for about a year, but I've been sticking pretty close to the comments. I apologize if I've forgotten to reply to any of your comments. If you guys have any questions at any time, feel free to go ahead and comment down below on any of my videos. I tend to reply almost all the time, and again, sorry if I didn't reply to any of your messages, but if you guys need help, I'm usually here to help you guys out. If there's anything that I don't know, which there's quite a bit I don't know, I can try and pull you in the right direction at least, so if you guys ever need anything, just comment down below. Anyways, I've also noticed from the comments just how many people have these older cards in the first place. I was actually very surprised. I mean, I'm not too surprised if somebody has like a GTX 460 even to this day, more along the lines of maybe like a 660 Ti or 670. Those tend to be much more common, but the amount of people that had even older cards than that, and I'm talking about cards like the NVIDIA 7000 series, we're talking about very old cards. Or in some cases, we're talking about cards such as even the Radeon 1000 series. I still get comments on my videos on occasionally of people still using them. And in many cases, it kind of makes sense to me, honestly. There's plenty of people, depending on their location in the world, where it's actually tough to get these newer cards. And many times, these older cards are cheaper. They're affordable for a lot of people. And that's just the truth. I mean, personally living in the States, it's a lot easier, and I completely understand, especially with the way trade sometimes is, that in some places these are going to be tougher to get. And even these older cards can still fetch a pretty penny in a lot of places in the world. But the nice thing is it does let people actually have a gaming experience, and a lot of times, you know, if you ever have any ideas, if you have any hardware that you want to see if it actually works, you can go on YouTube, you can go on Google, and you can try and find some information on it. There's plenty of resources. I mean, not just my channel, I'm talking about so many resources nowadays. I mean, compared to when I was a kid with a 6150 SE, it was a lot tougher to find out if a GPU could actually handle newer stuff. It's a completely different world nowadays. So many people are making content nowadays that it's simple. I mean, by the way, 6150 SE, worst GPU I've ever had in my life. That thing was terrible. For me as a kid. Hope people have worse, and they tried a lot of worse things, so gotta appreciate that at least. Anyways, why are we talking about the game here? What are we looking at here? We're looking at Siege. Siege at 1080p on the card at the low settings. How well did it perform? Not exactly how well I would like it to perform. Again, as you can see right over here, the performance isn't that smooth. I mean, we are recording, but it wasn't that great. Bumping it down to the 720p resolution, however, major difference. We're going from something that is playable, but with a bit of, not perfect smoothness, I guess you could say, to something that is actually very smooth, which in a game, personally, like Siege, I mean, I can play games at 30 FPS, other games, but when it comes to Siege, I like that silky smoothness. I don't need 120 FPS, I mean, I have a 60Hz monitor, so can't really take advantage of that, but 60, I got a 60Hz monitor, I like that. I think a good chunk of people would agree that 60 is just a great number. Unless you have a 140Hz monitor, or 240, then you probably think that number is great, and that's true, because it probably is. Anyways, back to our raw footage over here. I got the benchmark for Siege going on here. Let's give you a little bit of comparison. If you got a different kind of rig or anything else, you want to compare it, here's a chance to do it. This is 720p low. This is the benchmark right here. And I'm going to go ahead and leave the numbers off at the end there. That if you want to go ahead and pause the video, you can go and compare it to your own personal rig, or if you have a 480, compare it. And if you have a different CPU or a different GPU, you can go ahead and see how it compares to this. So always nice little comparison, nice little reference for everybody to use if they want to. Again, it's only going to be up for a brief few seconds or so, but please feel free to just pause the video real quick and take a quick look at it. It lets you figure out how much of a difference between your rig and my rig, for instance, with the GTX 480 is, and the 2700X, of course. Can't forget that's part of the rig. Alright, anyways, let's move on to our next game. We're talking about Black Desert Online. Now, I constantly get ads about coming back to the game, and I've come back, but only to benchmark it for a short amount of time. I can't really get into it anymore. I tried to get into it a while ago, was into it for a little bit, and that's kind of faltered off since then. A few years ago, actually. But overall, hey, it's still a game that's very popular. It's still a fun MMO from when I used to play it, and they got an update not too long ago that gave it pretty nice graphics. I mean, we are running at the realistic settings right here, and look at that. Look at those reflections. They're not ray tracing, they're fake tracing. They're still very nice. And as you can see here, once again, the great thing about not having a CPU bottleneck and just having a GPU, well, I mean, the CPU is going to be a bit affected, especially in this part of the town. But just the nice thing about having a GPU that's holding you back the most, turning down the resolution, turning down those settings will give you that great frame rate boost that we're talking about. I mean, you're going from something that was unplayable at the highest settings to a rather big graphics downgrade, but a high playability to replace it. And here we are. Here's the raw footage right here. This is going to show you. I mean, overall, look at this. We got a lot of people on the screen. Our GPU's not hitting that 99% exactly, so we are getting most likely, hit back a little bit with that CPU. But overall, look at that. It's a very, very smooth experience. I mean, come on, guys. It's a decade-old card. And Black Desert Online is not the newest thing in the world, but it's been updated fair amount of time. And listen, if something is a decade old and you're talking about computer hardware, I mean, that's like a century normal time. Though a century we just started flying, so maybe that's not the best comparison. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to Civilization 6. Now, personally, I'm a Civ 4 guy. Not really a Civ 5 guy. Not much of a Civ 6. That is the Civ 6 by Civilization and 6. There we go. Civilization 6. Alright. Personally, I'm not a Civ 6 guy, I'm a Civ 4 guy. But let's talk about the performance. Why are we even talking about what I prefer? Why don't we talk about the performance? How well did it perform? Take a look at this benchmark right here. This is decent. I mean, come on, it's Civilization. It's not going to be the most graphically intense thing on the planet. And overall, it's just going to be something that most people are going to be able to play anyways. I was actually able to get the game free on Epic Games Store, so that was kind of nice. Thanks, guys. That's really cool, actually. That might not be free at the time of doing this. Again, I think it's only a promotion that's going on for a short amount of time. But anyways, why are we still talking about that? Let's talk about the performance here. How did it perform again at this resolution? It's doing really well. I mean, look at this. I mean, come on. This is something that's going to be fun to play. It's going to be something that most GPUs will be able to handle. And can the 480 handle it? Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And in fact, let's go ahead and move on to the final part of it. Of course, the raw footage here. It's going to be a little bit in the recording. You're going to notice the previous segment of the video was the same exact thing. When it came to the settings, the only difference is now we don't have that good old loss of performance due to recording. And as you're going to see, there isn't a tremendous difference that's going to exactly occur, but nonetheless, there is a difference. And again, the raw footage, I'm going to try and include it in almost every video now. It's going to give you a better example of what you're actually getting with a card like this. Alright. And last but not least, we have Mount & Blade. And note, it's not Warband. Yes, those graphics look terrible, but we're actually looking at Bannerlord, the newest Mount & Blade, the one that just came out this year. And I will warn you guys, it is currently in early access, so you might be watching this in the future, which, hello from the future. Hopefully things are better then. Anyways, yep, this is Bannerlord. How well did it perform? Well, at these settings, it's not exactly that great. It's a pretty game. It's not the most beautiful thing on the planet, but it looks pretty good. And also, as you can see here from the gameplay, every single time I try to get a kill, it was stolen from me, unfortunately. But we shouldn't be talking about my gameplay. We should be talking about the performance. At the end of the day, isn't that what this video is all about? I think that's what it's about, maybe. Could be wrong on that. Could be wrong on that. How well did it perform, though, overall? I mean, come on, guys. You know how it is with this card? You got a decent CPU, you turn down the settings, you make it look like a PS2 game, and I guarantee you the 480 is going to be able to run it. If there's one thing I've learned from the 6450 video, yes, that 6450 video, if you've seen that. Unfortunately for you, you might have seen that. Very unfortunate. Anyways, as I noticed, as long as you don't got that CPU bottleneck going on, you're going to be able to crank down that resolution in the graphics quite a bit. If you remember from that video in PUBG, I think I got the, what was that resolution for PUBG? I think it was like 72p. Yeah, that made it playable, alright? So even with the 480, I mean, listen, there's going to be plenty of times, like I mentioned earlier with Call of Duty, the driver's going to cause you an issue, but as long as the game can run, if you can get it down to 72p, I can guarantee you will have a playable experience. And here we go. There's the raw footage right there for you guys. Look at that, you got plenty of people on the screen. You got a lot of stuff going on. It's a smooth experience. Is it perfect? Is the frame time perfect? Is everything great? No. The card's 10 years old. What do you expect? You got a brand new game, not the best graphically, not the most beautiful game on the planet, but a very playable experience. Alright, let's do a conclusion. First things first about the card. It's warm. All those jokes you've heard your entire life about it being, a furnace essentially, I can confirm those. In fact, while trying to take the card out of the system itself, I only left it off for about 2 minutes before grabbing it. Terrible idea. Most GPUs, you can just grab them and, they'll be pretty cool to the touch. I mean, if you touch the metal part, they'll be a little warm, but even the casing on this card, it was hot. So yeah, it also can act as a space heater, of course. You can probably do quad SLI on one of these things and it won't be really usable, except you'll have a great space heater in the winter. In fact, I don't think that's energy efficient, but that's using your energy in a good way as a space heater. If it's the summer, then you're wasting a lot of money on it. In fact, in general, your electric bill is probably going to be pretty high from this thing. It is a power hog. Yep, sure, you could look up the power usage on it. Especially, it's been done plenty of times, and yeah, it's going to use up quite a bit of power. So, not very efficient, but hey, what can I say? It's a decade old. It can still run stuff. It can run most things, honestly. There's going to be a lot of limitations when it comes to that driver that I keep mentioning. A bit outdated. You'll have your workaround once in a while, but it's going to age. For what it is, it's fun. 10 years later, it's decent. It's not perfect. It's not compatible with everything, but it'll do a good job. Anyways, guys, it's good to be back. If you liked the video, go ahead and like it. If you don't like it, dislike it. You should. It gives me a better understanding of how people enjoy the videos. If not, if you're subscribed, cool. I appreciate that a lot. If you're not, it's your choice. You can do what you want. And guys, hopefully more videos. Or I'll see you in 2 years. We'll see. Anyways, take care, and I hope you guys enjoyed.